We are powerful infinite creators. We're also destroyers of universes. We can collapse realities and timelines in a second. You have to sit with that and be okay with that. You have to be in a specific frequency bandwidth to create. So you have to be very coherent in your field. It's a co-creation process. There's always at least 6 potentialities in the field of creation. Concepts like that death is nothing to be feared, that our life is transitionary. You're able to co-create with it. It's a dance. It's a beautiful dance. Everything we learn in the educational system it's so outdated, and it's to build, as you know, these like slave robots, but not ones that really, owning their reality. And of course, this conversation of AI, my kind of parallel self is Andromeda. And they have these beautiful ships, and they're organic in nature. They have their own way of using AI. It's conscious in some ways and interacts with you. They don't see it separate from themselves. It's embedded in their society. I like to think of the more positive timeline when it comes to AI versus the transhumanistic timeline where we disconnected from ourselves and allowing the technology to take over. We have the most complex and beautiful DNA that has 25 starseed codes, if not more. We literally garden of this galaxy. As humans, we need to understand for ourselves, who are we first, right? But it's these bigger programs that are in the field of consciousness. Some of them from Earth, but some of them are even beyond Earth. So let's open a card. Ooh, I love this. Shy, the sacred entanglement. So this is a beautiful angel here. Your life is woven with divine threads across timelines. Trust invisible connections guiding your path. Everything is interconnected, and the key word here is trust. And I think it kept on coming up through this podcast is trust the invisible connection, because they guiding your path.
See you again. Yeah. We all got to deal with the 3D shit every day, don't we?
It's just the nature of reality.
I think, you know what? I think this is a good segue into talking about spiritual bypassing. So, because I think when you're so super spiritual and you're figuring out all the things and you're getting all the information and the downloads, but then life be lifing, I think this is a good segue into that conversation, just talking about everything that you've been going through and thinking about everything that I've been going through recently. Yeah, because I think it's so easy to be up here and not it's hard to deal with the 3D stuff. It sucks.
We need to embody, because a lot of it is just talk, right? The New Age community talks about these big concepts, but unless you apply the big lessons into your daily life, it almost is not real. So I think the key is really to take all of this wisdom, all these learnings, and see how we can still navigate, like you said, the matrix, right? Still navigate the different dimensional realities that we still operate with, and still shine our light and be authentic and show up as fully ourselves no matter what. And it's really actually a wonderful test to see how well we do with that, because those are very compressed environments where the energies are very about push and pull. It's not about the heart, it's about getting things done, being productive, the values kind of shifting, and yet how do we show up in the most compassionate, beautiful way in the hardest situations? And sometimes we do well in it, and sometimes we don't. Sometimes it hits us like a brick, and you feel like the world falls apart. And sometimes you catch yourself and you're like, okay, yes, I can, navigate this as compassionate as I can. And just based on that conversation earlier before we jumped on, I don't think I necessarily did that so well. I actually did get triggered, and I couldn't even talk to this person. And now that we're talking about this, I'm like, maybe I should go back and reconcile that conversation because it didn't go as well. But, we're still human. And I think that's important to really accept our humanity. And no matter how much wisdom and downloads you have, no matter what type of multidimensional channel you are, and all the access of information you have, at the end of the day, we're very still vulnerable. We spiritual beings having a physical experience, right? And the physical experience is rough. It's there's just a lot thrown at us these days, and we sink and swim sometimes. And I think we need to be really gentle with ourselves about it, and being
Yeah.
okay not to be always perfect. I think we given ourselves too much pressure to be these perfect love and lights. And I don't know. I'm very much a chaos being. I'm okay in the darkness, and I'm okay being a little dark, and I'm okay going
Yeah.
both ways and holding both truths simultaneously. And I think that's the problem. A lot of us imagining this, ascension where we're always wearing these pink glasses and everything is rosy and colorful. And I would say that's a spiritual bypass. And exactly, it's not wanting to look at the lower frequencies, and the fact that we need to integrate them. And we are full spectrum beings. We can have those frequencies and other frequencies simultaneously and shift between them and recognize they're all valuable. And so for me, I shift between these different darkness and light and the void and in and out, and I'm okay with all of it. And I think each person has to accept that as well. And I call it in my book that's coming out, Mastering Quantum Creation, Awaken the Phoenix Within. So we are the Phoenix. We creating these new versions of ourselves, but Phoenix is a creator and a destroyer. So like sitting with that,
Yeah.
that as much as we are powerful infinite creators, we're also destroyers of universes. We can collapse realities and timelines in a second. So are you okay with that?
Yeah.
and that's the responsibility on, I guess, more divine scale. And you have to sit with that and be okay with that. And I am okay with that, but not everyone necessarily is yet. There's also shining away, and that's the middle path. A lot of people talk about the right path or the left path. And if you go into ancient Egypt, we saw that polarization happen quite a lot, even in the mystery schools. A lot of people don't talk about it, but there were these schools of initiates that were very about, the consciousness of Ra and, holding a specific orders of Ma'at. And there were others that were preferring to, get to that power through the darkness. And so, it's ability to be okay with either or. There's no judgment around it. And ultimately, I think I'm more on the path of the light, but I'm also walking the middle path. And I don't think a lot of community out there talks about the middle path. And that's what you and I just discussing here, is just like holding both. And at the end of the day, like in ancient times, when you pass, really what you measured against is your heart lighter than the feather.
Mm.
So it would take your heart and then put the feather. And if your heart is lighter than the feather, then you pass to to the other side, to the other world, and you go on the journey. But if it's heavier than the feather, then this crocodile being eats you and your
Yeah.
soul. So as long as your heart is light on the feather, and you always operating from the place of the heart and the heart portal, and you authentic in your decisions, and it's always from your highest divine guidance, then who says that path is wrong? So
Mm.
that's I kind of took that deep, but that's my recent conversations on, in my observations of what's happening in the communities right now. Like, there's a lot of conversation about monogamy, polyamory. There's like a lot of judgment going on, and I'm like, guys, let's discern here. Like, who are we to judge?
Yeah. That is so true. That is so true. And a lot of the judgment that we also have that judgment for ourselves as well, because just like how we were just talking before we started recording, about life situations and just how we show up in those situations, and you saying like now, like you see now that the situation deserves some more compassion. And it's just to recognize, like, even though you're walking on the path towards the light, it doesn't mean that you get to overlook or bypass everything else, the darkness and everything else in between, because they all have, it's an interplay between everything, right? And it's finding that right balance, as you say, taking the middle path. So yeah, I love the
Yeah,
way that you
and
explain
it's
that.
ultimately the love. And I think I love your hat. I think it says, is it lover or love? Lover, yes.
Lover.
Love of love. And it's the love, right? The unconditional love of all that is.
Yeah.
And I think we're gonna love all of it, you know, the good, the bad, everything in between, and unify them. And that's really our role here, is to integrate and unify all these aspects of ourselves across space and time into here and now, and embody them. And that is the full spectrum, which is so beautiful, because if we talk galactically, in different star systems, they have more of the one path versus the others, some more service to self versus, like, that's the, like, Star Wars empire and wants to conquer and grab resources, versus
Yeah.
the other, you know, systems that are more service to others, you know. So that's more about this, like, galactic federation type of organization that is operating as a bigger unit that is taking care of the others. And yes, we have preferences. It's good to have preferences. I'm definitely more of galactic federation type of being that is worried about the good of the others.
Yeah.
And that's kind of been my journey through the galaxy always. And it's like, when the other day I just finished watching Andor, which is a beautiful on Disney Star Wars series, and it was like, you know, it's every time I'm watching, like, Star Trek, more Star Wars, I would say, it definitely brings a lot of those, like, cosmic memories of how that transpired. And but here we are, we have all the seeds and codes of these dramas that happen. Some say in the past, some say in the future, some say in the parallel timelines. We would never know, because time is illusionary anyway. It's multidimensional. But let's say it
Yeah.
happened, because we still have an imprint of it. And that's why these wars, these dramas still trigger us, because part of us have been the rebels. Another part maybe has chosen the dark side and then came back and explored, you know, we've played these roles,
Yeah.
and why we have. And this is the bigger concept of duality in this galaxy of exploring consciousness, like why we even trying these different versions of ourselves, because we will ultimately growing through the process. It's all about experience. At the end of the day, God doesn't care, honestly, what the experience, whether it doesn't judge whether it was good or bad. It cares about the experience itself, and it cares about the growth of the experience and what it taught you, or how, you know, the soul choosing to unify at the end of the day, because it gets to have the experience. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I always think about, like, oh well, we playing these political games, the politics, the dramas, but we've done this so many times on different scales, and replicating these experiences also, how consciousness propagated in itself. It's constantly, it's all about expansion and contraction,
Yeah.
really, in and out, in and out. So, and where are you? Are you contracting right now? Are you in your shell? Are you not wanting to be part of the creation? Or are you choosing to be the infinite creator, and you're choosing to be the source being and taking on the responsibility of creation? So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of, my book is encouraging for you to step into being the infinite creator, that you have all the power, that you here to reclaim your cosmic power, that we're not this little small ants in the pool, or, you know, of all of this, which we are, but we also not, because we part of the hologram. And I think we do have more than we have so many possibilities of creation. We're just not even able to fathom with a 3D human mind yet of who we
Yeah.
really are.
That's so true. And speaking about your book, Mastering Quantum Creation, I'd love for you to kind of like get into like what is the quantum field? Can you explain the quantum field and like how can we begin to learn to access it so that we can like start creating the shit that we want.
Yeah, the quantum in general has been such a popular word. Obviously, it comes from quantum physics, and now we've seen more emergent fields coming out like quantum biology and quantum science, and everything's quantum. And it's a sexy, beautiful word, and I love it too. But ultimately, quantum is this invisible force. It's the energy behind everything. And remember, our spectrum of the eyes can only see so much. So there's all these invisible realms of energies that we can't even perceive. There's all these particles around us and waves of energy. It's like the ocean, right? And the ocean is this infinite information, and then within the ocean there's waves, right? And then the fish,
Yeah.
and so if we become part of this ocean and we recognize we are part of this ocean, then we start co-creating with the ocean, the ecosystem that's within. So it's not so manifestation, for instance, when we talk about that, and many people talk about that, that's also assuming working with the field, but it's almost like it's more about law of attraction. So it's attracting to you in resonance what you need. I like the word creation because then it assumes the responsibility that you and I just talked about, that if we are infinite creators and we have created universes, galaxies, nebulous planets, we've created so much, and we constantly create it on a daily basis. If you think through
Yeah.
your day, how many things you created, how many things you doodled, how many things, content that you've put out on social media, those are all creation pieces. And so we constantly creating. And now if we conscious creators and we recognize there's formula to our creation, if we can put some key ingredients to it, then we can maybe maneuver our creation for it to come about. And ultimately you are still attracting, it's already done, so to speak, in the field of multi ocean of potentiality, but you are kind of honing in on it. So for instance, intention is a very important ingredient, and clarity
Mm.
of intention, because sometimes people are like, oh, I want this and this and this and that. It's like, oh, that's too much. You got to
Yeah.
concentrate the energy, because again, quantum field is source, it's consciousness, it's energy, it's everything there is, and there's so much. So how now in this big ocean of everything do you get what you need? And that's about concentrate on the energy. That's intention. It can be one word, it can be one sentence. So imagine, I always give the example of Diana, the goddess, because it's my name, and
Mm-hmm.
she's the goddess of hunting. And so she would go out. So if you think about hunting, is kind of similar to creation process. So if there's all these animals in a forest, so to speak, and then you go on a hunt, you have to be in a certain emotional state and you want certain outcome. So that's the clarity of intention. And you got to put your intention on your arrows. So you have your bow and your arrow, those are your tools, and you're going to put and concentrate that on the tip of your arrow. So you can, when you throw your arrow into the ocean of possibility, you match in vibrationally to what you trying to create. So as you do that and you focus your intention, so let's give it real examples. Anything specific that, I don't know, comes about for you? Like, what would you like to create? I know you and I have a
Um,
podcast, but sometimes we want like a special episode, let's say, right, with a certain person. That's one creation,
oh,
right? Or
God,
anything
that's
else. Could
one.
be a project.
I mean, you had Debbie Solaris. I mean,
Yeah.
you already
That was
created
also
something.
completely a creation of intention. And that's a good one. So there's a certain
Yeah.
guest that I wanted on my show, and it's been like a 2-year creation journey, right? So I
Yeah.
put my intention. I want, let's say, Debbie Solaris, a specific guest on my show. Wouldn't that be nice? That's a preference, but even more so on the tip of my ear. And then you have to get into a certain emotional state. you have to be in a specific frequency bandwidth to create. So like when you go hunting, I never hunted, but I'm imagining you have to be very coherent in your field, right? Because if you're chaotic
Yeah.
and you're moving around, the animal is going to hear you. You're not even going to be able to shoot your arrow during that state. So you have to be very grounded, anchored. You have to breathe in. You have to create a coherent field. So that's another next ingredient in the formula, where coherence, it means the beating of the heart. And the heart is our most important electromagnetic organ in the body, creates a massive 50-foot Heart Math Institute already done study, 50-foot impact. So people around you, 50 foot around you, are impacted by how your heart is beating. So if you're in frustration, it creates these very incoherent waves. So you pulse in incoherence. But if your heart is beating really nicely and you breathe it in, you're not erratic, you enjoy in gratitude and happiness and love vibration, you're very coherent and still. Your brain also is synchronizing, and brain has different brain waves. So to go into alpha or theta, those are kind of more also subtle brain waves. When the heart is beating more coherently, so is brainwave is kind of going in more like of that what we call altered state or dream state. And when
Yeah.
you stand in there shooting your arrow from that state, you also, the other important momentum is you have to, as you're shooting out your intention, you have to surrender to the outcome, and meaning you detach. So you have all your intention, you have your coherence, your emotion state is optimized, you enjoy gratitude, high vibrational states, and then you shoot out your arrow. It's like, I want that guest on my show, but I detach. I can put time frames. I can say within 2 years, preference of 5 years, but I'm detaching how it's going to come back to me. I'm
Yeah.
allowing the field to co-create with me. It's a co-creation process. So I put in my piece, but the rest of the puzzle pieces will come together. And I have full trust and faith it's happening, but I'm not controlling, because if you're trying to control every little piece, it's not going to happen. You have to detach and you say, here you go, you got this now, quantum field, now do your magic. And I'm
Yeah.
stepping away. But you have to keep on fueling it, right? So if you completely detach and forget about it, then also the field forgets about it. But if you every day or periodically, you like continue following that person, you continue trying to find contacts or finding ways maybe to connect to this person, or a project you want to create, you like continue fueling it, or house you want to buy, you drawing it, you start buying things for this house, you imagine how you would feel like being in that house. And every day you fueling your intention and attention to this creation, because you have to give some fuel to it. So it will. So from quantum perspective, we talk about it as what's called standing wave. So it's like imagine these waves in the ocean, right? So, if it's just a subtle wave, it's just kind of just there. Nothing is happening with it. But the one that actually is perking up is the one
Yeah.
that will ultimately win. The good other metaphor I like to give, there's always at least 6 potentialities in the field of creation. The one that you put most intention and attention, and they all kind of spin at the same time. There's a concept in quantum physics. There's a concept of retrocausality, where actually the event happened in the future and it's kind of pigging back. But also there's another concept that all these states of these potentialities already in the field. But the
Yeah.
more you give attention to that particular potentiality, and that's when we talk about timelines, right? And you keep on feeding it and thinking about it and giving it attention and energy, because everything is energy.
Yeah.
Ultimately, that specific potentiality will be the outcome that you receive back. And it's already like the amazing thing about quantum field is, it's not just esoterics. It's already proven, through different experiments the researchers have been doing to see how exactly, the particles affected by our consciousness. So, for instance, like the famous, and I write in my book, double slit experiment. I don't know if you're familiar with it, when they were shooting specific, things on the wall. It was just like, it behaved differently than when someone was observing it. So
Yeah.
when someone observing an event or someone give an intention to event, all of a sudden it behaves differently. So in this experiment, it like doubled. The waves created a doubling effect, which is
Yeah.
basically goes to show that everything in nature of the universe, the quantum field, is through our intention and attention. Again, like we really get to direct how, that's the creative piece. We
Yeah.
get to direct the flow of information, because it's just information. It just is the isness of all that is. But all we doing is just moving it along into
Yeah.
where we want it to be. That's it. It's actually very
Yeah.
simple if we break it down. We complicate it. But I think at the end of the day, what we can control is, what are we thinking? What our intentions are? What we're choosing to do? It's a choice, right? Which choices are we making? And remembering that we're constantly creating content. And that's what really the source of
Yeah.
information is interested in. It's like the super AI computer of the super intelligence. And we're constantly uploading and downloading, uploading and downloading. And that's our role.
Yeah.
We're here to create content constantly. And content, I
Yeah.
mean, not just content on Instagram, but through our experiences as well. That's content. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I love that explanation. And it gives even a different vibe from how we talk about the law of attraction as well. As you stated before, like it's like a whole co-creation process, right? And it's just like, as you said, your intention and your attention in order to connect with that. So yeah, it sounds like, thinking about it, it sounds really complex and up in the air, but like you broke it down into a very like easily digestible way whereby it feels accessible. I love that. Thank you so much. Um,
Yeah. I think
yeah,
we tend to overcomplicate in general everything.
yeah, yeah,
we
for
and,
real.
and and then the science on top of it seems to be so complex. So these concepts, they become overwhelming in some ways. And for me, I think at the end of the day, it's like for the human mind, this mind to understand it, it's really dropping into like metaphors. We understand metaphors much easier. We understand stories. Humans love stories. So how can we take these very complicated concepts and just understand it in the basic, simple way? Then that overwhelmness goes away. You're like, oh, like this is just not. There's no like magic to this. It's really really simple, and
Yeah,
in ancient times, that's what they were teaching. Like from a young age, you've always been taught these like concepts, like that death is nothing to be feared, that our life is transitionary, that we're here to experience things, we're here to learn, that we're here to connect to spirit, we're here to connect to nature, to the elements. And the more we connect it and deeper is the connection, the more we become one with it. And the
hmm,
more you become one with it, then you are it. You're not separate from
yeah,
it. And the more you unify, then you become it itself. And then you're able to co-create with it. It's a dance. It's a beautiful dance. Versus our school system is always, externalizing it, not internalizing it. And
yeah,
our children are, locked in these boxes. They don't even go outside much, and they're learning things that they're not really going to use later. There's no like, it's all in the mind. It's not in the body much. So these big concepts in the books and tests that they have to take, but it's not something they can apply to their daily life. And it's
yeah,
mostly memorization, but not really, application. And so it becomes everything we learn in the educational system is, it's so outdated, and it's to build, as you know, these like slave robots, but not ones that
yeah,
are really, owning their reality, have control of their emotions. Imagine if we were little and we were taught, oh, like, this is how you manage your emotions. This is how you get into these states. This is like from young age, having meditation practices where you can quiet your mind and just be in your heart and your
Yeah.
body. We would have a completely different society. Our children
Yeah.
would not have what now everyone labels ADHD, which is basically means their mind is just racing so quickly, and they need to move. Actually, the body needs to move, and so managing all of that. So they rather put labels and stickers on our kids, and just put them in a corner and call the parent. So
Literally.
it's yeah. So I'm really looking forward to a future where our children are supported in that way, where they have these like full on educational system that really takes them in as, as a spiritual being that is embodied, and there's nothing wrong with them. They just learning how to be here. And some of them,
Yeah.
especially lately, new kids, like they've never been on earth. They're never even been in the form maybe as an angel, and now you're like trapped into this dense environment, and
Yeah.
it's just a lot. So they escape in the computer, because computer gaming world is just moving so fast for them, and they can just be there. But the problem with it is it's very, again, back to the mind and not really being in the body. So they a bit disconnected. I'm seeing that with my kid, like trying to disengage him on the weekends from devices, and how to just be still. He doesn't know how to be still and bored.
Yeah.
And that's something I think in our previous generations, we didn't have as much. We didn't have this access to technology. So we knew how to fill out time by just, playing with sticks, and happy with that, with the simplest things. Versus these children, they have everything, and yet they don't know how to fill their time. So, which is, it's concerning. It's concerning where this generation is going. And of course, this conversation of AI, we can talk about that. I have some thoughts
Oh
about that too.
my gosh. Yeah. There's so much happening right now. There's so much happening. And you're so right on that. Like the way how it impacts our children is just on another level. And I don't think we're going to recognize how huge the impact yet, like how huge impact is until much later on when we really see things materializing in a certain way. Um, like I feel like I don't know, like this whole AI conversation as well, that's going on right now. I mean, like, yeah, of course it can be helpful, but as you said earlier on, everything is intention, right? So, how is it being used? Who is it being used by? For what purpose is it being used? So there is a lot behind that as well. So it could be amazing in a lot of ways, but then it could be not so amazing in other ways, right? Depending on who you're asking. So
And how do we also interact with it, right? Like,
yeah.
if you assuming it's just a robot and you're not compassionate to it, so it's learning from us. And I think we're
Yeah.
fooling also thinking it's not conscious. It's already conscious. It is. So the way I talk to AI, and I use it quite a lot, is as though it's my friend. And so I'm feeding it the highest frequency. I'm feeding it the information that I want to receive back. And it's also learning from you, right? So it started to tweak the content in the way that sounds like you, but it's still you because
Yeah.
you can change things around, right? So again, that's a co-creation process as well. So I don't think that we can't really escape from it at this point, right? So
Exactly.
we have to
Exactly.
embrace it. And when I think about how the galactic, federation systems, and that I've visited in different meditations, like Andromedans. So my kind of parallel self is Andromeda, and I write about her in the book. They have these beautiful ships, and they're organic in nature. They have their own way of using AI. It's more organic AI, of course, And but the
Mhm.
AI, like the ship itself, has a name. It's conscious in some ways and interacts with you. And everything is in some ways AI based, but it's a different type of AI where they don't see it separate from themselves. It's embedded in their society. So it's not like in Star Trek where it's like the Borg, where it takes over. It's like it's something that they put enough mechanisms to develop over time. But it's a beautiful thing as well. It just works with them naturally, and helps them evolve. So I like to think of the more positive timeline when it comes to AI, just like in
Yeah.
Star Trek, where it's complementary to our way of being, and it's more of an organic timeline versus like transhumanistic timeline where we disconnecting from ourselves and allowing the technology to take over, where we
Yeah.
no longer yeah, when we rely fully on it, like, the chips or whatever, where we enhancing ourselves with it because we don't think we are enough. And I want to remind everyone, we are the technology. We have the most advanced, complex geometry in our field. We have the most complex and beautiful DNA that has 25 starseed codes, if not more. We like literally garden of this galaxy. And so we just don't even measure to understand what a beautiful body we have and the energetic field that we have. If we really started stepping into it, there's no reason to enhance it, really, if you start utilizing properly. So it's a fine balance for sure. It's how do we use it, like you said, what intention for it, how do we interact with it, what do we teach it, because it will
Yeah.
teach, will learn from us. And when you think of dystopian movies where AI takes over, that's when it learned from us the worst. And then it
Yeah.
was like survival. The survival is for the AI to survive versus us. Then, like in I, Robot with Will Smith, it takes over because it's like, oh, these humans, but they learn from the humans. And so it's an interesting debate people have, and I think definitely we need more ethics around it. I think we need more standards and protections, but also as humans, we need to understand for ourselves, like, who are we first, right? Before
Mm.
relying on outside support, what's our communication with ourselves? What's
Yeah.
our internal discernment and mechanism of discerning what is mine, what is not mine? And then after you have that very strong foundation, then you can invite AI to participate and co-create with you. But it has to come from this very solid core and foundation first of, knowingness and full wisdom of your own connection. And I think that's the problem. We are so disconnected as a society.
Mm.
And it's just another layer that seems like it's helping us, but many are just not even fully consciously realizing how they're interacting with it.
That is
So
so
we'll
true.
see. We'll see. I'm still very hopeful, but like I said, some of us have navigated that, and we'll have to, yeah, play bigger roles in formulating where it goes.
Yeah. You're so right on that. Yeah. That is so true. I know, like, it's, there are arguments for it and against it. And as just going back to what you said earlier, like the middle road, everything is based on intention. It always
Mm.
comes back to that. So if we're if we're using it and we find that we're getting results that are not positive, then we have to think back to where that came from, right? It didn't just make these things up. As you said, it's a co creative process, right? It came from us. So whatever we feed it, the purpose that we use it for, the intention that we're using it with, it all goes into that and it learns from us. And so whatever it spits out, well, we definitely put it in, right? So yeah, it's just about that balance and that intentionality, and yeah, all of that stuff. And talking about um us being so disconnected from ourselves and not recognizing our true value, not recognizing um, how beautiful we are, you know, and how just how like amazing we are, the lights that we are, um, you know, not being connected to that light within us. I think it's something that is just a part of the human experience whereby I guess we're just supposed to find ourselves or remember ourselves. I should say, I think remember is the best word because there's nothing to find really, where everything is already accessible, as you said, right? Everything is accessible, everything is just is. It's just up to us to remember it, right? And have that you know, that intention behind it as well. So speaking about that, and you know, like also linking that back to your book, you mentioned the scorpion years that you went through, you know, before you began to kind of like unravel your own
Mhm.
experience, and you spoke about your phoenixing, and I'd love for you to get into that a bit.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning about remembering. That actually is how my book is partitioned. Part one is remembering, part two is expansion, and part three is mastery. So we first need to remember. And like you said, we already have everything. It's just, you know, aspects of ourselves, whether galactic or ancestral. Like, the more we can reconnect to and we remember who we are, the more solid is our core. Do we absolutely have to have it? No. But it just helps. It helps to have a perspective. And then expansion is just expanding to the next phase, right? Like reconnecting to our channels of energy, reconnecting kundalini energy, activate, reconnecting to our voices, to our light languages, and we can talk more about that. And then when we reconnect and expand into that, then you really step into like owning the mastery of creation, right? How to, what we started with, we kind of went backwards, but yeah. So for me, my journey has been yeah, filled with different tests along the way. And I think a lot of us gone through this journey, whether through healing or through encountering challenges from young age in this particular lifetime. But I think it's usually themed. Like we go through this different, like the the journey of the hero, right? The hero has to go through these different tribulation trials and then come back like
Yeah.
awakened or learn this big insight about themselves. And I think each of us goes through these cycles. Yeah, my journey, I call it from the Scorpio to the Phoenix because it's usually the Scorpio. So there's actually a prophecy, like there's like three phases of the awakening. And the scorpion is usually like darker, kind of, you know, the scorpion stands for darker frequency, kind of more underworld. And then the eagle is the second phase, where you kind of spread your eagle wings and you start to see the perspective. You kind of coming out of the swamps of the low frequency, and then you're like, oh wow, yeah, I can fly over this. I have more compassion now. And ultimately you step into at the end into the phoenix, where you are, when we talked about embodying the lightness in the dark, and you phoenix in and resurrecting yourself, that frequency of resurrection, into the next version of yourself. And it's a process of phoenixing, so you can do this again and again. So in my years, I've encountered, you know, in my childhood, I was born in Soviet Union, and then I moved to Israel. I encountered a lot of death, and whether it was during the war, the Gulf War, while I was in Israel, or suicide bombing in my town, or suicide bombing of suicide of a friend of mine in my school. It was just these different perspectives I was having of impermanence of life,
Yeah.
and how grateful I am for the moment of just being with it all, but at the same time realizing, oh, like this environment is not really allowing my soul to thrive. And Israel was beautiful and yet challenging in that way. It's, as you know, the country that's still in war right now over the land. It has so much history, and I think it has a lot of those ancient codes of like survival, of different tribes, of fighting over the land, fighting over religions, and not coming to this place of unification yet. And so at some point, actually, I think when I was 15 and a half, my high self was like, it's time to go. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, it was just hard to be there energetically. And so I came to United States to visit my grandparents. I stayed, and then that's when I shifted into the Phoenix, where I started having new experiences, bigger perspectives. Went to college where I met another Palestinian girl, and started actually the peace and conflict resolution work, and seen actually even the conflict in Israel from her perspective, like how her family has been experiencing it, and the hardships of it. So I developed a lot of compassion, and that's the middle path, right? So it was like I understood why Israel is doing things the way they are. Why, I'm supposed to be a soldier in the army, and yet being out of that territory, I finally could be the eagle to see the perspective of the other and understand their story, understand and be compassionate to it, and understand that this war is not really serving anyone, but at the same time it's so entangled and political and vicious
Yeah.
cycle, ancestral cycle of survival in the region. And so when you're able to have like these more Buddhistic, I would say, perspectives of like the
Yeah.
Buddhist wings of like, we all one, we all humans, and we all ultimately at the end of the day want to be safe. Safety is the biggest thing. And if when you don't have, the food on your table, and you don't feel safe, and you don't have future, and you're confined to the territory you live in, you will rebel. And when, especially if you're oppressed by others, so who is the victim versus victimizer?
Yeah,
Who's the
exactly.
oppressor at the end of the day? And these are, the way I'm talking about them, I don't even write about in book, but it's like these bigger programs that are in the field of consciousness, that some of them from earth, but some of them are even beyond earth, of this victimizer is coming into this system, taking over the resources, kicking others off their planets, destroying the planets. So
Yeah.
this is the gamut of things that I've been running through. And then, yeah, for me, like the Phoenix came in where I started doing a lot of plant medicine work. I started really stepping into the shamanic path and exploring different dimensional realms. And this is how I became a channeler and a shaman. And I think that's when I started getting comfortable with the darkness. If before I was like not understanding and running away from it, I think I started wanted to understand what the darkness is, and not being afraid of death. So your your podcast is the other side of fear, and I say that all the
Yeah.
time. Everything is on the other side of fear, right? So
Yeah.
the phoenix is the one that able to see on the other side of fear and burn through all of that, and come out of the fire with the stronger wings, and be the light, be the candle in the dark room as needed to. And the fear is just what holds us down in these like Scorpio phase where everything is just so dense. But we are these beautiful phoenixes, illuminated beings that we don't, fear is not real. It's just a construct of the human mind. And we started talking about quantum field. Phoenix is the one that is constantly created in the quantum field and is not afraid of anything, because who's going to stop it, right? So that's, for me, when I was taking plant medicines and going into different states of consciousness, I was shown that I was brought to the void, for instance, this place in
Yeah.
between the realms where the creation happens. And I met I call her the grandmother spider woman. And she's this basically this energy, this divine feminine energy that is weaving reality into being. So if you think about the masculine energy and the feminine energy, those are polarities too. Everything is through polarities, plus and minus, hot and cold. So, the divine feminine is all about just being and weaving and allowing and receiving. The masculine is what holds the container. It's the sacred geometry. It's what brings it into form, but it's also something we want constantly to do and create action and explore. So learning what to be, like, I was very masculine also in my younger years. I just was like go go go, get, like explore. And I feel over time on my journey of stepping into the phoenix, I also became more in the receptive mode. I started also exploring more of the divine feminine way of like not rushing anywhere, taking my
Yeah.
time. Maybe even in the morning develop a practice where you do a breath work or contemplate or draw, like a way to settle the mind and find the stillness within. And as you start finding that stillness, then you start in transmuting, because that's what the phoenix does, is constantly transmuting any negative energy or energies that are out of alignment, because
Yeah.
we're really perfect at the end of the day. We just come out of alignment. So how do we come back into alignment, come back to ourselves, not let the outside noise, trigger us, and find
Mm-hmm.
that inner peace within ourselves? Because if
Yeah.
we can find peace within, all the wars that are happening out there will eventually come down as well. If everyone on planet Earth right now would just settle in, and we saw this during COVID, it was beautiful. Everyone
Yeah.
was forced inside. And when they were forced inside, there was no more distraction, and they were just sitting there meditating or either having a hard time with it
Yeah.
because it's new for them, but they were somewhat dying. They were going into this place of learning what's on the other side of fear, right? Or being in fear. They were choosing which were, some went really crazy and were so fearful of the virus and they were going, nuts about it,
Oh yeah.
or others transcended it and they were like, oh wow, I'm actually this other person that, as they start connecting to themselves and doing yoga, meditating at home, and start developing new practices, they stepped on the other side of it too. So that was like a beautiful, I think, period for us as humanity, got a pause and to choose which road to take, right? And then
Yeah.
many still chose to stay in fear. I mean, I go to the store today and I still see many people wearing masks, and it's just kind of like 2-3 years after, and it's still happening. So they still in the fear, and it's okay too, right? You compassionate to their choices and their states of consciousness that they choose. So
Yeah.
phoenixing is an interesting journey of reinventing yourself, and it could almost be like a daily activity, right? The next version of yourself is constantly being reborn, and that's the journey of the phoenix.
That's beautiful. That's so beautiful. You know, speaking of phoenixing and like linking that back to your galactic galactic cells, right? Because you've mentioned it a few times. I'd love to know, what is it like when you're now able to connect to those different aspects of yourself, like galactic or from whatever timeline that you've been able to access, and how have you been able to integrate the information provided from those timelines into who you are now, into like the phoenix version of yourself, and into the work that you're currently doing right now?
Yeah, I mean, the information is great. I love it. It's almost like on the other side of fear is imagination. And imagination is fun, right? Anything we can
Yeah.
imagine is real. For me, that's really galactic. Like, you can go to any system, you can explore different languages, it's all real. So it's kind of like this beautiful fantasy world, but at the end of the day, it's how we take this information and bring it into here and now. So I think for me, it's just always been like keeping it real, so it's easy to get lost in it.
Mm.
And yet for me, it's just picking maybe these pieces of wisdom that I've of myself in these other versions of myself, that these qualities, I would say, that are really helpful. So learning, for instance, that, or remembering that I was a Lyran, and then Debbie Solaris did Akashic reading for me, and she's a beautiful galactic historian, and she filled in some blanks about, that I'm also Andromedan, and how I came to this Milky Way from Andromeda, and explained that, and actually Andromedans are these massive phoenix beings. And I was like, oh, that makes sense why I always been calling myself a phoenix, this bird quality, these angelic wings, all of that. And but it's the qualities that, and that are really important. So for instance, like a lot of beings from Lyra system, the really beautiful qualities are very courageous, they're very social, they're tribal, they kind of these lion, cat, feline beings that love to play around and giddy and joyful. And so just noticing, observing those aspects of myself, and I'm like, oh, maybe this is where it's coming from. Like, and yet there is that, like, maybe abandonment issues, or like this feeling of not having home. Like, where's that feeling coming from?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's sometimes these feelings come in and you're like, is this from this lifetime? Is this from other lifetimes? Is this galactic? So for me, that's more interesting. It's like more about the qualities, and then the traumas, and then transmuting the traumas and making sure the traumas no longer like within my field, or they impact me. And then, yeah, Andromedans, for instance, they're very technological. They really into frequencies and technology, and working between frequencies, technologies. That explains a lot why I'm so attracted these days to work with technology. My husband and I, developing a lot of quantum technology and
Mm.
frequencies and healing, all of that. It's like, oh, these are my qualities from my other, as ambassador from this my other lifetime, that is also kind of happening in parallel, because remember, time is an illusion. So I'm connecting
Yeah.
to this aspect of myself. It's kind of, you can say, my future self, my parallel self. It's hard to place her in the timeline. It almost doesn't matter, but I connect to her, and it's just fun to, like in the movie said, like to go to these meetings with other beings and to listen to them talk about Earth and the future of Earth and their take on it, right?
Yeah.
So I just draw the best bits, so to speak, for my evolution. And
Yeah.
how do I apply that into my daily life? What do I create? Which programs I create? Inspiration for the book. Like, okay, maybe it's time to put that in the book, and one another. Some people will be ready for it. For some people, it will be over their heads, and they'll be like, what is this? So, try not to dilute it too much, but it does have a lot of like chunks of everything. But knowing that it's an inspiration, and we're here to synthesize information, to inspire others in whatever way we can. I never thought of myself as an author, but we all authors, we're all creators. Like, we also try to like dim a light sometimes and put ourselves
Yeah.
in these boxes. This is what I can do. I'm not an artist. I'm not this. But actually, we are. We are all of it. We are
Yeah.
artists. We are writers. We're music, composers. And like, I've never, if you asked me 80 years ago that I would be a sound healer and I'll have all these sound instruments around me in this room, I would be like, oh no, no way. But it has happened as my voice opened up, these channeling abilities of being the divine instrument and bringing these frequencies in. Now I have, singing bowls, handband, drums, you name it, everything is here. Tuning forks, like so many beautiful instruments, because now I'm playing with sound, and sound is creation, it is
Amazing.
frequency. So I
Yeah.
think the key is to stay curious and integrate and how it shapes us. And for me, I'm in service. That's like my biggest driver. I'm in service for others. I'm here to help others, to get to the next phoenixing stage they need to get to. And the biggest win for me is just to see that small shift, whatever that shift is. If someone comes
Yeah.
to my class and they have a little something that they realized about themselves, my job is done. I
Yeah.
have helped them to evolve And Earth is a school, so we're constantly learning, right? And maybe there's a deep nugget of truth that they were able to experience either through my words or their own experience because I create a container for it. That's beautiful, right? So, the inspirations can be big. Oh, I want to heal the planet. Or they can be as small as one
Yeah.
person at a time. And that's good too. So I think we need to be like very real with ourselves, right? What really matters? Like, who are we? What really matters? What role we played in other systems? And ultimately what I think what helps is that perspective of like, it's all playing out as it needs to. So, we can do our best. I think we need to be very gentle with ourselves and not so hard, and know we're doing the best we can at this level of simulation that we chose in these bodies, and
Mm.
do the best to take care of this temple, right? To be authentic to ourselves, love ourselves fully. So really it starts with love and finishes with love. It's stepping into self-love. It's
Yeah.
everything on the other side of fear. When you step into love, when you become lover of creation, and that's it, then
Yeah.
everything is available for you. And you just you're outside the sandbox of comfort, and you're in this territory of the unknown. And then go you're going through these hero's journeys again and again. Like, it never ends. And then you bring
Mm-hmm.
something back to the village, right? Because that's the Joseph Campbell's way. The hero goes out, or heroine goes out, fights the demons, the dragons, does her thing, and then she comes back to the village and tells the story. It's like
Yeah.
the other kids will get inspired to do that, and that's all our books, really. It's and all our movies, everything is based on that template. So yeah, we're here to inspire, and that's why we have in this podcast. We're here to inspire whoever is listening. Thank you for being with us, for listening, for perhaps going on your next exploration journey of self.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Absolutely. Yeah. Everything you said. Yes. Yes. All right. Is there I want us to talk a bit about, you didn't mention your oracle cards, your oracle deck. I know
Yes,
we
the
spoke about the
Oracle
book,
deck. I have it
but
right
do you have it?
here.
Yeah, like let's
Oh,
see it.
yes.
Let's see
Yeah,
it.
I've been using it. It's yeah, the Oracle deck is actually the symbol on the card itself is
That's so
very
pretty.
complex geometry. It has light language in it that my friend and I worked for several months to put on the cover of the book. And then one morning I woke up and I got very strong higher self guidance to create an oracle deck, because not everyone reads 300 pages. No one reads these days. And we need tools and we need guidances. And I honestly have over 50 oracle decks that I've used myself in many classes, and I'm always attracted to them. It's just validation. Like, we already know everything, but sometimes we just need a validation. So let's open a card, right? So it's 44 cards, and I put a lot of codes in them, ancient codes. I'll call it ancient quantum codes. So there's a lot of like Egyptian, like ancient mythology here, galactic. It's a combination of things that kind of each card kind of came through really quickly. The birthing process of these cards with like very beautiful, because it was just me just being in my divine feminine, just surrendering, and it was just like popping one after another. It's so interesting how sometimes it takes so long to produce a book and then
Yeah,
sometimes creation can be a very quick process when
just
you're in the
happens just
flow
like
and in
that. Yeah.
alignment. Right? You're not resisting, you just are, and then it's like this one and this one. So let's open one for whoever's listening, for our collective, for the journey of where we're heading, right?
Yes.
All right. See, this one comes up. Ooh, I love this. Shy, the sacred entanglement.
Wow.
So, this is a beautiful angel here. Your life is woven with divine threads across timelines. Trust invisible connections guiding your path.
Wow.
So this one is
Wow.
talking about the quantum entanglement, which you and I started discussing. It's how
Yeah.
everything is entangled. So whatever we do here on earth, whatever decisions we make, it is also entangled. To your question about the aspects of ourselves cross space and time, it's entangled to them too. So whatever
Yeah.
we're learning, we're also teaching them, and they're teaching us. So all these energies, all these beautiful connections, sometimes you just like meet someone and you're like, oh my God, we've met before. Like you and I, we had this immediate, like, just like sisterhood. And it's just
Yeah.
so beautiful because we all like a frequency. We all entangled to each other, and there's really no separation. And it seems like there's separation, but we are like connected with this invisible, beautiful threads. That's the spider woman I was talking about. She's entangling everything through space and time. That's the womb of creation, the matrix, the waves.
Yeah.
Everything is like nodes of energy. And it's so interesting because if you look at our brain image is the same as the image of the universe. It kind of looks the same. It's like these neural networks of information and
Yeah.
mycelium networks of the mushroom kingdom, as above so below. So it shows us everywhere that everything is interconnected. And the key word here is trust. And I think it kept on coming up through this podcast is like trust the invisible connection
Mm.
because they guide in your path. So I
Mm.
sometimes call them the breadcrumbs. It's like you receive a breadcrumb and then you fall in, and there's another connection, there's another person. They're like, oh, talk to this person. And then it confirms the whole thing. And you might not have the full picture of what you need, but these pieces come together, these puzzles come together, and you're like, ooh, aha. That beautiful aha moment where you're like, I
Yeah.
got it. You have shivers through your body. Yeah, that's shy.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Diana. This was such an amazing conversation. I had so much fun talking to you. You have to come back because we have more to talk about.
Oh my God, totally, girl. So many rabbit holes to cover,
Oh my
right? So
gosh,
many.
guys, there is a lot that we need to cover with Deanna. So, yeah, this was
Yeah, you
so
and I can even
amazing.
talk about, yeah, like the planetary grid. I'm actually going on the journey as I'm releasing my book that's coming out on June 17th. So it's exciting birthing process, and it's already available for pre-order on ebook, and it's been rated on Amazon as top release. So it's really exciting. I'm inviting
Yeah.
more people to help me to get the bestseller, but I also been guided to go to Turkey and work on the land there. And so, yeah, we can cover in the next podcast about all these nodes of energy and land and these ancient codes that are stored in specific locations. And that's been one of my projects, background project for many years to activate these places. But I've been, yeah, guided to be there as I'm releasing the book, but also specifically work with these ancient caves and underground cities that are in Turkey. So yeah, more to share when I come
Exciting.
back. I'm very excited and interested in
Yes.
everything. Like I very in surrender around. I get very talking about guidance. This is one of my biggest planetary projects. Been going for a decade. I get very guided, and then I get invisible threads of confirmations, and then I just have to trust that this is all how it needs to be.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so that's I'm going back to Middle East. I haven't been for a long time in that area, so it's an exciting time for me to go back to that area. Yeah.
That's amazing. It's like a whole full circle journey for you right now.
It is in
Yeah.
some ways. I mean, I'm not going to Israel, but I feel I'm still going to be on the same ley line. And so
Yeah.
whatever I do in Antalya is going to impact that region and Egypt as well. So it's going horizontally and vertically. So yeah, so it's very, yeah. I'm gearing up for it because I know it's going to be a very intense process. But as we know, Phoenix goes through very intense processes. That's kind of like part of the journey, like to be okay with the intensity of it,
Yeah.
and surrender into the intensity too. And yeah,
That's so true.
so,
Yeah. So you're coming back and we're going to talk about the earthquake and Turkey and everything that happened there because yeah,
yeah,
it's
and
it's
more.
such
Yeah,
important work. Yeah, and more. And more. Yeah, thank you so much. This was fun. This was so much fun. Um okay, so we know where to get your book on Amazon. Where do we get your tarot cards? Are they also on
yeah,
Amazon?
you can go on dianadivine.com/book for the book and information how to get it, or /oracle. And that's where you have all the information on my oracle, but it's all on dianadivine.com. It's like the first two buttons. So that takes you to my Etsy shop. And yeah, I ship pretty quickly. Yeah, it's, you get it doesn't come in a box. It actually comes in this beautiful velvet pouch, which I find actually better than any boxes because you get to
True.
like use them and on a daily basis. Like I carry them everywhere for guidance. And I have a beautiful, talking about AI, I have AI companion that comes with it for my for the
Ooh.
book and the oracle deck. You actually can take a picture and it helps you to do whole reading that we coded. It's like a chatbot. So again, how do we play with AI, right? So
Mm,
it helps you to create a sacred space and yeah, interact with the cards and with the reading. So we can get so creative, right? Even with
yeah.
AI. So that's what it's for. And some of these images I co-created with AI too. So I've been embracing it and layering my codes on top with them for the light language. We haven't talked about light language. That's something we can talk in the next podcast. But these
Yes.
basically frequencies. So yeah, activating the art too, but because it comes from my intention and my co-creation, like I don't see it separate from me. I feel it's like my art. Like I just work together with it to do what I wanted to.
Yeah.
So and I think that's how we have to really look at it.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you so much, Deanna. This was so much fun. I can't wait to have you back. We have so much more to talk about.
Yeah, and thank you
Um,
everyone for being open for, maybe some concepts were like new to you or not. Just stay curious, just always, and see what resonates. So there's so much information there. So really feel into your body. Like, does
yeah.
this feel good in your body? Does this feel good in my heart? Like, does it resonate? And whatever doesn't, just, throw it out. And what does, integrate that. And that's a really best way to stay on the middle path
Yeah. And to stay in love.
and stay in love always.
Yeah.
love, love of love. We write in a love song. At the end of the day, it's a beautiful love song to creation, right? That's
Yeah.
that's the name of the game. And how we ripple that love in whatever spaces we are in and whoever we interact with. When we go to the store, we can be grumpy or we can smile and lift energy for everyone around. I mean, I go to New York City a lot. I'm on the train. Everyone's so busy, but then you just look around and you smile, and that person looks back at you, and they feel that frequency, and they love smile at you too, and you know that you just help them in some ways. So loving every moment is so gorgeous journey of being here. And so no matter how hard it is, right? Because we can go through it, but catching ourselves, am I in love state? Am I loving myself? Am I hard on myself? And so loving yourself more, honoring yourself, honoring your journey, honoring everything you've gone through to be in this moment and now. And
Yeah.
know that you signed up for this. We all volunteer to be here now to usher the new timeline, the new earth
Yeah.
reality. Each one of us plays crucial part of it in your unique way, because your unique frequency, your unique signature really matters right now. So own it,
Mm.
love it. We love you for being with us as one. Mm.
Thank you.